James Ernest of the Grueling Truth Radio Network, here with author and basketball star Ed O'Bannon. The name of your book is Court Justice, the Inside Story of My Battle Against the NCAA. Tell us, what is a student athlete?
You say, what is a student athlete?
Yeah, what's a student athlete?
A student athlete is someone, man or woman, who is in college or high school, I guess, for that matter, who is going to school and is an athlete.
Definitely, and I know that's like the base definition, but I mean, nowadays with how, unfortunately, with the extra pressures, the extra things that are put on their plate, in, with going with school and trying to fit in education, do you feel that definition has changed over time?
Yes, I think the definition has changed, and I think it's almost a frame of mind, and what I mean by that is, and I'll speak from experience. I even said this while on the stand when I gave my testimony when we were in court. I felt like I was an athlete masquerading as a student. I feel, when I look back, I feel like I was an athletic student. And again, what I mean by that is I was in school and I went to college primarily to play basketball. I knew it. It was no secret for me. I made that no secret. I understood and recognized that I wouldn't be there. I wasn't going to be at UCLA unless I could play basketball at a above average level. And so I understood that, recognized it. I did enough to keep myself on a basketball court as far as schoolwork is concerned. And that's just how I felt. There are a number of people who feel the same way as athletes. But at the same token, there are a number of athletes who are student athletes, who are there specifically to go to school, and then they're just using their athletics to be there and to have the scholarship so they can get their education. Everyone has different goals and different mindsets.
That was quite humble of you to say above average when describing your basketball. I would say you're a little bit more than above average, being one of the top picks and one of the legends in the sport of NCAA basketball. But hey, if that's what you want to describe it, that's perfectly fine. But I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What is the value of a scholarship nowadays? I mean, because it has changed over time. I mean, it used to be, a way to get ahead in life. But like you said, sometimes with athletes, not being able to take the proper classes that they want to get ahead, does it still have the same value?
I don't think it has the same value as it once did, although it does have still a lot of value. Whether you use your degree to get a job, or if you use it, in my case, to fulfill a promise that I made specifically to my mom and then to my family, to my wife and kids. It was, a scholarship, I think, has value. It has a lot of value. But again, people use it for different reasons. I think the beauty in America is we don't all have to kind of fall in line and have the same goals, and the end product is the same for everyone. Everyone comes from different places, and you can use your scholarship for different things. Yes, to answer your question, the scholarship has tremendous value, always has, but different people use it for different things.
And after reading your book, I now understand better, why you did what you did and why, the importance of it for, just decency and human, rights for the players. But some fans might want to know, why do you hate video games?
Well, that's first and foremost totally false.
I know you don't.
I look. I love when I saw my avatar on a video game. I absolutely loved it. I was fired up. But the fact that it wasn't, they didn't ask me to use my face and use my likeness, especially in the mid 30s. I was in my mid 30s. My eligibility is up, and they're still making money off of my likeness. I just thought that was wrong. What's funny about that is the NCAA or EA Sports wanted to pay the players, and the NCAA shut them down. But so they did it anyway without asking for permission. That is illegal. That's totally wrong. But as far as me not liking video games, and look, if people want to believe that, I'm not here to convince anyone.
People believe the dumbest things.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not. If that's what they want to believe, that's fine.
And I agree with you. Since they were using your likeness so far out after, your eligibility is up, why not pay the players that are on those legendary teams, the ones that, you want to bring back into the game? Obviously, due to, crazy NCAA rules, you're not able to pay the current players. But if you're going to pay the alums, I don't see what the harm in that would be.
Right. And that was and that was initially why I got into, this lawsuit. That's why I agreed to be the lead plaintiff, was because it was strictly for the rights of the former players. If you're going to use our likeness, you have to at least ask. If you're not going to pay, at least ask us for it. And they didn't even do that. And so it was, my main thing was to shed light on the situation. Pull back the curtain, however you want to say it, on the little eyes guy behind the curtain. The wizard, whoever he is. It was to spark conversation. And so, one thing led to another, and it became a pay-for-play thing. But my biggest thing was the former players. And so, we did the best that we could. My goal was accomplished in at least pulling back the curtain and sparking dialogue. Everything else will eventually take, will unfold. But, whether players get paid or not, that time will tell. But my main thing was to at least spark dialogue. The fact that the games were taken away, you have to ask EA Sports. That was their doing. I had nothing to do with that. But again, if you want to believe it was my fault, I'll take it. I'm a grown man. I'll be okay.
Yeah, because I've gotten to speak to some of the football players and how when they were compensated, for the previous games that they had been in, and they all agree with you, or at least the majority of them that I spoke to, probably about 10 or 15 of them from the Cincinnati Bengals, and a lot of them agreed that it really wasn't about the money, because the amount of money that some of them got was so minute that it was more just, like you said, about being asked, about them having the permission, having the agreement to be in the game.
Right. I've often used this example. I mean, if you ask someone in the entertainment business, a movie star or an actor of some sort, can I use your face to put, look, if I'm driving down the street and I'm an actor and I see my face on the billboard selling a product, my first thought is, what is this product? What are they selling? Why are they selling? They didn't even ask me. Where are my lawyers? How can we get to the bottom of this? I just felt like, look, enough is enough. Just because we're athletes and former athletes, you're still using our likeness doesn't make it okay. And so, I was given the permission, or I was put in a position, I should say, to again spark conversation on this subject. And so I jumped at the opportunity.
What does the NCAA bring to the table? What do they offer the players, the schools, to make it worth their while to be a part of the NCAA?
What do they offer?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know that they offer anything other than a bunch of rules that say that athletes can't do anything. I think universities really provide the means for the athletes, and ultimately, I guess my point is, for example, the Power Five we've all heard of. They can get together, and they, from what I understand, have talked about getting together and just starting their own league, and to hell with the NCAA, and they can do that. And then to trickle down to the players, those are the conferences, and then trickle down into not only the universities but the players themselves. They can also form a union or at least some type of body and say, look, this is what our needs are. If you don't meet these needs, we're not going to play. And I mean, they have the power to do something like that, and that's an extreme, but they can do that, and I guarantee you, whatever those needs are, they will be met. For example, really quick, the Missouri team, the football team, there was something going on their campus. The reason escapes me, but the football team said, look, we're not going to play this weekend unless these needs are met on our campus. And they were right away. They threatened to not play. The school, the program was going to lose money, and those needs were met, and then they went ahead and played. So I guess my point is athletes have power. The conferences can formulate and say later to the NCAA. So what does the NCAA bring? I'm not sure exactly how much they bring, if anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts along the same, where, like you said, schools bring the education and they bring the means for the players to show off what they can do, and of course the athletes bring themselves to the table and just the honor for the schools. But yeah, we've in the media had overheard a lot about Notre Dame being one of those schools that are really pushing for that, for the separation of the major conferences and the NCAA. So that'll be interesting if that ever does go through.
Yeah, well, I mean that's perfect. That's a perfect school because they've been independent. Aside from I guess basketball recently, in the recent decade or whatever, but they've been independent, right? They
in football definitely for
right, absolutely, and they've done great. They're traditionally a power in college athletics. I mean, it can be done. The sky wouldn't fall if everyone broke off from the NCAA. I mean, again, it's an extreme. I'm not asking people to do that, and I wouldn't. I'm not trying to start anything. These are thoughts that go through my head, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
So tell us what your original goals were when you started this endeavor, and then how they've changed as it's went along.
Yes, my original goal was really simple, was to spark conversation. I initially saw my avatar on the video game. I talked with Sonny Vaccaro a couple of weeks later, who gave me a call with an idea of starting filing a lawsuit against the NCAA. I saw my avatar and let him know And so we put our heads together and initially um, filed a lawsuit against EA Sports. And so, again, my initial thought was to would like rules changed, but it was all for the former players, ones that had their eligibility was done, and it eventually branched off into players getting paid. I reluctantly agreed to do it because, again, that wasn't my fight. I didn't. Those were. That was a fight that I just didn't want any part of. But for us to get there and for changes to take place, we had to ride the momentum that we had as far as the lawsuit with EA Sports was concerned. So, it branched off into players getting paid, athletes in college getting paid. And so we eventually went to court, won our court battle. It was appealed by the NCAA. We went to the Ninth Circuit, and then basically split the difference. Tried to go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court didn't want to hear our case, and so that's where it ended. Again, I got into it to spark conversation for the former players, and it eventually branched off and morphed into what we have today.
Again, kind of like before when I brought up the video games, complete tongue-in-cheek. It's true that you made millions and billions of dollars off this lawsuit, right?
Yeah, a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Nothing. I didn't make anything. Wasn't the goal. Never really even thought about it. It was, in fact, when we initially talked about the lawsuit, it was expressed to me that we weren't going to make any money. This wasn't about money, and that was actually attractive to me in a weird way, because I got into it not for the money, and the fact that they told me that it wasn't for the money, I think made it a really good marriage.
Exactly.
And
so they were doing it for the right reasons. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It was done to change rules. It wasn't done as a money grab. And so, that's I've hung my hat on that this whole time. I didn't. The ironic thing about it is that's all that people seem to think that it was done for. So, that's the situation. I really don't know what else to say about that.
With the coaches' salaries and all the rights fees going up over time, is that one of those reasons why they feel that the players should be compensated in some way, since they are the ones doing the majority of the work in that case?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that the athletes, I think if you don't let the athlete control their likeness, if they can't, if there are rules in place where an athlete can't sell his or her jersey, or their face, then they should be able to be compensated in some other way. The fact that they're not getting paid, and then on top of that, they can't even, you can't say a store in the mall, a sports store in the mall, wanted me to come by and sit down for 2 hours and sign autographs, right? And pay me, I don't know, $250 for 2 hours, and sign autographs. I don't understand the harm in that. You know what I'm saying? If a player has an opportunity to do something like that, where it's not, you're not getting paid, $500,000 to sit in the seat and take a couple of pictures and kiss a couple of babies. I mean, that's an extreme. That's ridiculous, right? As for a college athlete, but if you're getting paid just a little something so you can take your girlfriend to dinner on the weekend, or pay a phone bill or car insurance or something like that, I don't see the harm in that. But there's rules in place, and you can't even do that. I just feel like there's something wrong with that. And then on top of it, the player goes out and plays in this tournament, the NCAA tournament at the end of the season, and the television contracts and everything, the combination of everything, the eventual sum is over billions of dollars. They're making all this money, but they can't go to the mall and sign autographs for 2 hours for $250. There's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Exactly, and the problem with that is then it causes the shady things that go on behind the scenes, as opposed to, like you said, them having a legit doing autograph signings or different things like that. They end up having to get the $500 handshake or whatever it is, that kind of thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to get rid of those happenings, the $500 handshakes. Let the kid go to the mall and sign autographs for a couple hours. I think. Look, some people are greedy. Maybe they'll double dip and take both. I don't know. Who's to say? But they just completely take that opportunity away from the kids, and I think that's wrong.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. I mean, they need to get more opportunities with the education, and they need to get more opportunities just to be able to live. Like you said, I mean, you're not trying to get them, lavish cars or anything like that. None of that Reggie Bush stuff. You're trying to get, just them to be able to enjoy their lives and be able to live like normal students.
Right. Exactly. They don't have. There's not enough time in an athlete's life, especially while in school, to have a job, a part-time job. You're either perfecting your craft in your athletics, or you're studying, one of the two. So you can't get a job. So, but that's why we did what we did, and that's why we're here where we are, and the NCAA will see it our way. If not, they will continue to have to go to court and fight, because there are lawsuits coming down the pike, and people are, athletes are fed up, whether they do something about it or not. They're fed up, and that's why that's why I'm here. That's why I did what I did, because I know athletes, you can't say anything, not right now. Let us frontline soldiers take the bullets. Or, I'm sorry, not that's wrong term. I apologize.
No worries.
Let us take the brunt of the backlash, and then when everything subsides, then maybe the athletes can kind of say, when people see what is actually going on, then the athletes can possibly step up and say, look, this is what we need. Can we have a seat at the table with the NCAA and kind of refine-tune some of these rules? I think that would help. Talk to the athletes, see what they want, see what they need. The kid from UConn, after his game, I think he plays for the Kings now. Shabazz Napier.
Yeah.
When he talked after the game, he talked about not being able to eat because his schedule, and he got in too late, and it was closed, or whatever his situation was. Well, then right away, all he did was said something after a game in his locker room. He said something. It caught traction. They changed the rule. Athletes have power. All they have to do is speak up.
Exactly. It's about getting their voices out there, being heard, and getting those younger generations the opportunities that you all didn't have. Were there any other names that stepped up to take part in this to help spread the awareness?
Oh my goodness, yes. Bill Russell. Mr. Russell was kind enough to lend his name to our cause. Oscar Robertson, um, the great Oscar Robertson, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time. I was honored that he also lent his name to our cause. Harry Flournoy, who was the starting power called Glory Road, but he was starting power forward for the Texas Western team that beat Kentucky. He lent his name to our cause. May he rest in peace. So we had some heavy hitters, if you will, some great all-time great basketball players, civil rights leaders of their time. Lend their name to our cause. That gave us a lot of weight, and it showed the NC2A that we are serious about our what we're doing, what we're talking about, and B, something has to change. We're not the only ones that recognize people of their magnitude, of Mr. Russell and Mr. Robertson's magnitude, have recognized that changes need to be made. So yes, we had some really some genuine, some great people behind us. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your co-author and his role in the book.
Michael McCann is a cool dude. Great writer for SI.com. And he followed the case closely. He and I met during out in Oakland during the court proceedings. He and I had lunch along with Mr. Vaquero and Mr. and Mrs. Vaquero. We all had lunch when we were introduced. It's just really a friendship thing, just a casual lunch date. And he and I talked about, hooking up later on. He lives and is from New Hampshire, and teaches law school out there, at the law school out there. And he invited me to come out and speak to his students. And so when I went out there to visit, we talked about writing a book. And later on, we got serious about it, and we did it. But he's a great man, easy to talk to. It was therapeutic for me to actually talk with him and give him my perspective on the lawsuit. But Michael is a brilliant author and a brilliant man. And I'm very pleased and happy with our book. But more importantly, I gained a friend with him, and it's been a great experience.
Where can people get your book? Where's some of the better spots to find it?
Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, as well as Barnes and Noble, and anywhere you buy your books.
And is it already out, or is it about to come out? Because I keep getting confused.
It's already out. It came out last Tuesday, and we're excited. It's doing well, doing very well, and the feedback that I'm getting, everyone is pleasantly surprised. It's an easy read, which is one of the first things that I told Michael that I wanted was an easy read, as well as somewhat entertaining and informative.
If people are wanting to know more about the book, or just catch up with you and what you've been up to, or the case, where on social media, what websites do you recommend for them to check out?
You can Michael McCann. I'm not sure what his handle is. His Twitter handle is. Mine is Ted_O'Bannon. That's my Twitter handle. But you can also find Michael McCann on Twitter as well. He handles the heavy lifting as far as
So, are you still in the car business?
I am. That's where I'm at now. At
Nice.
the dealership.
So, if somebody's looking for a good type of car, what do you recommend as a good, sturdy, safe car?
Well, you can't go wrong with a Camry or a Corolla. The Camrys are hybrid also, so there's a little gas saving there. Our Prius are real big here. One of the biggest vehicles that we're selling is the RAV4. Everyone loves that. My wife drives it, absolutely loves it. My daughter wants one. But our RAV4s are probably our biggest ones right now.
What's next for you?
Enjoy life. I've got kids that are in college. My son plays college baseball. So we'll be watching his progress. I'm here at the dealership every day. My wife is in the school district. She's got a major role in the school district here. So we just live our life. We try and live it under the radar. This book doesn't help. This lawsuit has not helped at all whatsoever as far as living under the radar. But I have an easy life. There ain't a whole lot to it. My wife is happy, my kids are happy, and for that I'm happy and I'm good. So I guess I just want to just kind of stay low key. But this case keeps calling. So I guess ultimately to answer your question, it's to spread the word on how there are social injustices going on in college athletics. But when I'm not doing that, my full-time job is here at the dealership and just kind of chilling out.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ed, for coming on the show. Today's guest was Ed O'Bannon, Court Justice, the inside story of my battle against the NCAA, available anywhere books are sold.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure.